Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the One Last Cast podcast. My name is Jonathan, and as always, we have Merriel Solesky here. Say hi, Merriel.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Well, it's our first episode together of 2023. It's kind of the beginning of February, and today's episode we're going to be kind of diving into a little bit more of our. I think for me personally, it's my favorite time to fish, winter fishing. Don't know about you, but before we do that, let's give a shout out to some of our sponsors, Dirty South Kayak Anglers. If you are interested in joining a Facebook group that talks all fishing, kayaking down here in the Texas coast, Dirty South Kayak Anglers is the place to be. Lots of good information on there. Also, Knock and Tail Lures. Some of the, actually not some of it, it's the best soft plastic in my opinion for paddle tails that kind of get everything done. You have trout, redfish, flounder, the big three. I throw that all the time, and they have the 3.5 inch, 4 inch, and the big 5 inch one. And it is my go-to soft plastic when I'm fishing down here. And for a printing, they make our custom merch, such as our towels. They also do stuff like custom buffs. So whatever you want, you dream up and you need, go ahead and get Aaron a shout out, and he will get that taken care of for you. Um, and actually, before we go into winter fishing, Merrill, you were recently at the Houston Boat Show this past weekend. Um, Tell us a little bit about that. How'd that go?
Yeah, man, it was fun. You just reminded me. I'd like to give a shout out to the people that came and visited us at the uh, at the booth at Fishing Tackle Unlimited booth. Nestor, who's the other guys I messaged you so I didn't forget? Jesse was one. One of the guys purchased him and his son, or his son purchased a kayak.
And you're gonna make me go look through all my text
No,
messages.
I don't even worry about it. I did give him a shout out, at least a post, right? So I guess that's part of it. So you guys that came out and said what's up, appreciate it. Also, what's his name with Paul? Paul with he came by and said hi for a little bit. He follows and he's very active. He's with Line Cutters, right? Is that
Yep,
right,
yep,
Paul?
yep.
Paul, what's his last name?
Coke.
Coke, yeah,
Yep,
Paul Coke. Appreciate you
yep.
swinging by, bud. Means a lot. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. So the boat show was there was a lot less fishing tackle people there than there was the years prior. Seemed like there was a lot more different stuff there. A little bit more like roasted nuts and and like pots and pans and knives and other stuff there. But usually, I don't think Chicken Boy was there, and a couple other lure companies weren't there. But we did get to see Landers there. Landers is fish. He's coming up with a new popping cork. It does have a new owner. I don't know if I'm supposed to give out that information or not, but there's a new owner's Landers. But I use their pliers, I use their leashes, and I use their floats. And they got a new popping cork coming out too. Or it's not coming out; it's already out. They're selling that at the boat show. I stopped by and talked to Michael Bowes with Down South Lures. He's always friendly, cool to talk to, down to earth person. Yeah, but not really much you know, other than that. There wasn't a lot of people that are up that are usually up and going for the boat show. So maybe we're going to see a bigger impact on the fishing show. So maybe there'll be a lot more people and a lot more tackle, a lot more lures during the fishing show. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah,
But
and I think
but
the one of the big reasons is that because I think this is the second or third year that they've combined the what used to be a standalone Houston Boat Show with the Houston Auto Show. So um, this year it was combined together, and like I said, they've been doing it for the last few years. So I think their targeted demographics for lure companies is it's not just fishing and because or that's their target demographic obviously it's just fishing, whereas with the show here it's a mixed demographic of auto enthusiasts and as well as
yeah,
fishermen and boaters. So um, yeah, I used to years ago, right when I actually got out of college, I I worked for a company that did social media for the Houston Boat Show. So, and it was awesome because at the time it was just boats, and I was there. I got paid to be there, and I just walked around and did social media. And I remember being super excited because I was one of the first people there, um, and I got all the good deals from like the bargain bins that they had around.
Why not,
Like,
right?
yeah,
Stock on a whole bunch of stuff you probably don't even use, but hey,
well, no,
it's
it
on
was like
sale.
I found it was I forgot what company it was, but it was like $1 voodoo shrimp.
Oh, wow, really?
And
Wow,
I
I
was
didn't.
like, I'm just packing them into a basket, and like I had a whole basket. It's like, yeah, it's like $30 right here,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Voodoo
I was
shrimp, those are really good shrimps too.
yeah
I didn't realize how good they were until we fished that tournament where they give you the hands of bait, like they give you
oh
the
yeah
bait the morning before,
yeah
and you have to use those specific. I wish I'd go back to that. That was so much fun because you
the
got to
saltwater
see everybody.
survival, the
Yeah,
OG
yeah,
saltwater survival.
the old school because you got to see everybody. They're all like, oh, coffee, and you trying to stuff tacos in their
Yeah,
mouth, and everybody's groggy, waiting for these lures, and it's like, here's your pack.
yeah.
Everybody's like burn off in the trucks wherever they're going. Or that was fun. That was a lot of
The
fun.
my first time I did that one, I remember I was just I was so it was actually one of my first tournaments I ever fished. So I didn't really understand what shotgun start was, and like I it was kind of weird to me. But anyways, I got the baits and I was just sitting there and I was talking to a buddy of mine. We were just sitting there, and it was really funny because it was like really lively. A lot of people were all around, and all of a sudden we look up and it's like everybody's gone. Like and we're like, oh, we can leave now. Okay, let's go. But
That's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
for those of you guys listening online or on whatever podcast platform you are on, we're actually live every other Wednesday. And you can find us at facebook.com/slash one last cast podcast. You could also find us live on YouTube. And you can join us live and ask questions. We have we have some people on here right now. Perry's one of them. Perry
Perry.
Bowman. Yeah,
That's right.
he says howdy from the chat. So yeah, if
Oh,
you have
good, good.
questions, you ever want to join us live, go feel free to join us every other Wednesday. Just follow our Facebook page. We'll be posting on there. Actually, follow our Facebook or Instagram, and you can see when we're going to go live, and you can join us and ask questions and just join in on the fun.
Hey,
But
I wanted to mention something. So we haven't even talked about the Florida trip that I went in, did we?
no, we did not. Yeah, so let me actually kind of set the stage here.
Yeah.
Um, so back in January, um, it was you know I was just hanging around, and out of the blue, Meryl said, "Let's hey, do you want to go to Florida?" Like I was like, "Okay, when?" Next week.
That's how I roll, man. Let's
That's
go.
how he rolls. I'm like, I can't make that quick turnaround, dude. It's a good luck. Have fun and send pictures. Um, and yeah, he went out there, and apparently you were maybe there are talks about. I think you're targeting sailfish.
Right,
Maybe looking into getting the sailfish smackdown that was happening that during that weekend.
right,
And you changed it into a different trip because that's how the weather came and that's how you rolled. So
right.
yeah, just tell us more about that trip.
Yeah, yeah. So the plan was to go catch sailfish, right? So we're gonna fish the tournament, pay the extra dollars in an entry fee, and usually they always change it on the weather. And if they would have pushed it to the Sunday, then obviously I wouldn't make it back in town for Monday because I had obligations on Monday. So I didn't want to pay that money. I mean, even though I'm like wasting thousands of bucks just going over there, but I was just like, still being tight with the entry fee. But anyway, so I went down there. We went down there. The weather was perfect the first day. We got there actually late in the evening, got our gear ready. Typically when you're going offshore, you got to make sure all your lines good, everything's in place because there's nothing more heartbreaking than when a fish gets on and then it comes off and you can check your gear. So always check your gear, make sure you got your stuff right. I had to put I separate my rods and reels. So I'll attach the reels to the rods, feed the line, put the leaders, get all my baits ready that I'm going to troll. And if I'm throwing live bait, which we did, we use I'm going to say it wrong, goggle eyes. And they're like, so if you don't know how much these baits are, they're like $100 a dozen. That's how expensive these baits
Oof.
are.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
and the thing is, they're almost like croakers because in the essence of you have to be really careful with them, and they're real slimy too. So you can't handle them, you can't fondle them. I think Nick found out you can't put them in a new bucket because it killed them all. So I was the only one with like half a dozen with live of them. So we just spent $100 on some bait. Um, and finding a launch spot. So we get to them the next morning, perfect conditions. I wouldn't say it's flat, but it's pretty close to flat. We get out there, boats all around us. So it was a lot of pressure. We didn't even get a single bite that day. Uh, but my partner was kind of like, yeah, man, I had enough of this. So he's heading in early. So his game plan was like, man, I can't wait for the nightlife, because they have a really good nightlife there in fishing the canals with lights. So I was like, all right, man. So we came in, we got all our stuff ready for the nighttime, ate something, and then we hit up the nightlife, and it was great, man. We seen tarpon. I mean, like 80-pound tarpon to 100+ pound tarpon. We seen big snook, but we just went there at the wrong time because they just weren't feeding, but they were staging, and they were like outside the lights and just looking, and the water was just so clear. Like I remember being, man, I don't know, maybe like 100 yards out, and you could still see the bottom from the beach, and I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable. Like this water's that clear. I remember being in the deep canals where all the big boats go through and yachts, and you can still see the bottom of the floor. And I was like, man, this water is just so clear. And we're by the inlets. And yeah, just fish everywhere. We got a couple bites, couple hookups, nothing promising. And then the weather guy lied. It was supposed to be flat for another 2 days. Storm came in early. We thought we could beat the storm. So we head to the other side of the coast the next day. And we get there, and the storm just overcame us. So we had to come to a second plan to find some protection. And I think we shot to Fort Myers. So we shot to Fort Myers, and then we found some canal lights. No lights in those canals. So I was like, oh man, like who turns up all their canal lights? And so we find another spot, and I think we tried two other spots where it's like, yeah, no. And we finally found this other spot. We went with our original plan, and to fish these one canal lights. We fished those, and it was just lights out, man. Every single light we hooked up to snook. Now landing them was a trick, right? So I had a little practice from when me and my buddy Juan's on here, but I had a little bit of practice from fishing Boca Raton on how they bite and how they have the drag set and stuff like that. So I was a little bit more successful once I told him, hey man, how's your drag set? And he's like, oh, it's pretty tight. I was like, okay, listen up your drag. And then I was like, hey, why don't you let them eat first? And when you feel the line get tight, then set the hook, because you have that, like trout, if you feel that thump, sometimes you got to set the hook right away. Well, these snook, they were different. They were just kind of like hitting it. And if you try to set the hook, you wouldn't hook them right, or they wouldn't be on the hook. It's just like, oh man, you set the hook to nothing. So I was like, then just when you feel the thump, just keep reeling until the line goes tight, then set the hook. And then you gotta work the fish in to not where you're yanking them in. Like if you pull them in, they'll get real acrobatic, and that hook comes out if that line's too tight, because they got real paper thin mouths. Kind of got a bigger mouth than a trout, so they got a lot more paper, I would say,
More
to lose
paper.
it. You got to hook. You got to hook. If you hook them in the right spot, you get lucky, right? But sometimes you don't get so lucky. But yeah, man, I think I hit the 50 mark there, and yeah, man, just booked it on the way back. It was we're gonna stop in Louisiana, but we're so tired, maybe like 6 hours of sleep total the last several days. So we just booked it back after that. But snook was well worth it, man. I mean, just having a night, just nonstop snook action, and that fight was just different, right? So I think I was addicted to just fighting a different fish and having fun, and then being successful with it too as well. And they were, I wasn't 100% successful. That's what made it fun, right? I had one of them messed up my reel. He was dragging me in the canals, and I was coming to the end of my spool. So I'm trying to catch up with them in my Hobie. I'll catch up to them, reel up, catch up to them, reel up, and then I had to thumb it at one point, and then finally, like my worm gear gave out on it somehow. But that was the only casualty. Other than that, oh, and maybe it was like 30 degrees below, not below, but it felt like 30 degrees below. I think my buddy had to go back to the truck and warm up. It got too cold for him. And then me, I stayed out having fun, and then went to the ramp, picked him up, came back, and we went to go try a different area in that same area. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. Just had a lot of fun, and want to do it again, man. I just there's we saw a lot of tarpon there, so I'd be nice to go over there, hook up on some tarpon. So I'm trying to get some homework done there and down south. So if you guys are interested, hit me up.
Awesome. Well, a little bit jealous. Sorry I couldn't go with you. Snook are still on my bucket list. I think I do want to. I think the bucket list is actually two separate snook categories, and one of them is obviously Florida, but the other one is we'll catch one in Texas. Because I know as you get towards Corpus and all that, they get a little bit more easier to catch. As in not as in they're there, not easy.
Right.
They're there,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Speaking of the cold, it's winter fishing. That's what our episode we're going to be talking about today. I look at 2023. Personally, fishing has been pretty consistent. It's been pretty good. It hasn't been like a banner year, but it's been good. A lot of it right now is just trying to figure out tidal movements and figuring out where the fish are going in relation to that. Some of my old areas that I typically were based upon my data that I keep that they the fish should be there. It hasn't been good. I've been a couple trips where it would be like, actually a couple years ago, I went with Curtis and Paul Coke, like who saw us, went out there to a location, and it was just all three of us limited on trout.
Nice.
And this same time that I went out this year, it's been dead. And that's the nature of it,
Yeah, but that's our unique winter, right? So what makes this winter unique compared to the other winters?
I think partially it was the the area is being developed, so it's a lot more. It's not undisturbed anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So especially boat traffic has picked up, and I think so far this winter it hasn't been as cold compared to when we were fishing at that one time. And also I'm gonna give everything away, but salinity has to do with everything too.
Right.
That I think that year it didn't rain as much. This year it seems like it's raining every week.
Right. Yeah. So a little hint, like a lot of us guys that fish in these back areas further up north, we're getting a lot of that freshwater push from all that rain that we're getting. So that's if you're fishing, you're still fishing up north, right? Or you're fishing areas that have a lot of fresh water. Yeah, your possibilities of you catching big trout or fish there, it might be less than usual because of what Jonathan's saying is the salinity.
Yep. Yeah, I'm part of my thing now when I'm looking at obviously conditions and tidal movement, tide charts, and wind charts and prepping for trips. The other thing I'm looking at right now is the NOAA salinity forecast. That's very useful. And yeah, so I've been fishing. One of the things that has stayed consistent in some areas is just I'm just fishing ledges now, and it's been there have been days where it's been awesome. Some days where it's just like really good trout, and then also really good trout and also really good redfish just mixed in every once in a while. So that's been my experience so far this year. So
Mm.
how about yours?
Yeah, so I'm having a lot of success. This time of year, I like to be, I like to fish, 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 I like to it looks at it's dependent on what kind of winter we're having. And so this winter, I noticed we're having a little bit more rain, and it's not as cold, and we're getting a little short cold like spots, right? So like initially, as soon as it gets cold, the fish might start transitioning, right? But they're not quite there. And then it'll get cold and then it gets warm again. So it's kind of like the fish are doing different things and different stuff. So what I usually do is I'll go shoot straight closer to the passes where the salinity is a lot higher. And then I'll focus on those canals. I like to fish the canals daytime and nighttime. It helps those deeper canals, like if where the canals are a little bit deeper and closer to the pass, and for me that's a lot more successful day and nighttime. So just because they're not lights there, that those fish still like to get in there deep, and for some reason in those deep canals, I don't know if it's the structure that gets heated up and warms up those areas a little bit better, but I have a lot of success there. Have a lot of success on same thing with you, is drop offs, deep guts, deeper water, deeper pockets, places where Texas Park and Wildlife like to shut down. Those are good places to head to when they're not shut down. So it's kind of a hint. Hey,
Yeah.
look,
No, no,
Offits being one of the number one
yeah.
spots, you
I
know.
was gonna say like Offits is notoriously known to be really good during the winter, mainly because it's so deep in there. But you know, just having that information out there that they close it when it gets real cold, just that's a dead giveaway that there's just fish
Right.
in there. You know.
And then in Corpus, so I'll be in Corpus this weekend, and it'll be a little bit cold down there. So we're gonna hit up some deep canals and places by Packery Channel, or I like places like Oso Bay. I don't know what they call it now. It might be called something different, but there's some deeper channels that I like to catch big fish there because those trout come in, and they're pretty fun to catch during this time of year. Um, but yeah, those are spots I like in Corpus. That's your tournament spot, guys. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's there. Those areas are fun to fish.
Yeah, and actually, you bring up something interesting to talk about too. Is that the canals? Um, and I'm just gonna just go ahead and say like you think about the canals over in West Bay, in Galveston. They If you look at West Bay as on a map, like all West Bay is relatively shallow everywhere until you get to the man-made parts of it.
Right.
So and that's just fish will instinctively go to deeper waters whenever it gets cold, um, such as this weekend. Where- and it's just natural that's what they do. And if you understand that and you understand what the deeper waters are, and that's just helps to increase your chances to catch fish. Um, you know, Fishing by no means is easy. Fishing isn't easy, but whenever you have winter like these, and if it gets cold, and for me personally, one thing I like about the winter is that there's not many people out there fishing, but you know, it's
I like it. I think I got it. I have like every day, like on my Facebook, there's posts of me and like videos I did in the past, and you'll see me there, like big old jacket, beanie on, and I'm there cussing and catching fish and dropping f bombs and b words, and but I shared one that had not that much cuss words today, but I was like, yeah, I can't post that. I didn't know how bad my mouth was, a potty mouth, but if you don't mind the curse words, you can probably go on my Facebook and check out those vids.
yeah. For me,
Yeah.
it's just like I like bringing up like some images that I have that I've like releasing a big trout. I think
Mm.
actually a couple weeks ago, in my Facebook memories, it popped up like this 7.5 pound trout that I was releasing.
Oh, nice. What is it,
Yeah.
28 or
No, no,
28?
it was a 27, maybe 26 point, yeah, almost 27
Oh,
inch fish, but it was just like fat,
mm,
like a football. I remember, and that's one of the cool things about about these Facebook memories is like it made me remember exactly what was happening at the time.
all
You
right.
know, we were fishing this back area where it was like 12 foot of water. Um, and casting towards the bank where it's literally like 2 foot and just drops into like 8 and it just slopes off into 12. And I was with my dad, and we were at that point in time, we were supposed to be like, we should have limited out already, but we couldn't find the fish. And we got to like literally like towards the back of where we wanted to be, and it was just lights out. For some reason, all the fish were just like in this one corner.
Right.
And he was like his first cast, he tossed it out there. He just hooked up right away, and he caught it. He caught his fish, and I caught a fish. And then, I tossed it out there. And I was waiting for it to get to the bottom. And then, I was just kind of looking at my fish finder. I was like, it's counting like, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1. And I started still looking at the fish finder, lost track. And I was like, I never felt it hit the bottom. And I just reeled up and set the hook. And it started, just this big weight. And it turned out to be this big, nice trout that came up.
Nice. Yeah, I wish I'd catch a trout like
Um,
that. Nah, that's fun, man. There's something about big trout and on the hunt for big trout. Probably one of the only fish inshore that gets me going is big trout fishing. It's everything else is like, eh, here we go hitting. I don't know. I won't get into that topic, but
Actually, we have a Ram Garcia here. He asked the question of what gives off more heat underwater, metal structures or wooden structures.
yeah. So like me personally, it depends when the cold comes in, right? Or what does the day look like? So if it like first gets cold, right? I think that that metal structure still has some kind of warmth to it, right? But if it keeps getting cold and cold and cold, I think that metal structure will soonly become overcome and it starts getting colder, you know. Versus wood structure, it's just yeah, it's a different material. So I think that would hold some warmth to it. I think better.
I
I would
think
say,
overall,
yeah,
as long as, and this is my uneducated opinion, this is just what I
right,
think. Um, I think overall in both cases, I would even just say wood structures have more warmth.
right,
Especially so if the wood like is sticking out of the water and has access to the sun, mainly because it's like, wood isn't like solid all the way through. It has air pockets throughout,
right,
and it's, it was, whether it's alive at that point, it was once a living thing,
right,
and it helps keep that insulation in. Whereas metal is just an inorganic material,
right.
and it's just going to take in the temperature of,
Yeah,
whatever the air temperature is around it.
that's like
So
10 times better than what I described it.
yeah, yeah. But I will say, like, there have been times whenever, like, just, obviously I'm still fishing a ledge, but when I'm on that ledge, I'm looking for those wood posts that are sticking out of the water, because if you get behind them, or you obviously figure out where the current is, but like, you cast up current and bring that bait out,
Right.
those trout will just eat them up
Yeah,
sometimes.
I actually have a video of me working some pylons at night in cold weather, and I'm behind the pylon as the incoming current's coming in, and I'm throwing it up current and coming right alongside that wood pylon structure, and bam, they hit it. He asked what kind of nails. It depends if it's galvanized or zinc. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know, right?
He's
Hopefully, it's
asking what
not littered with nails, you know.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I don't
you
know.
better break out that steel leader, Ram.
Yeah. Yeah. We got
But
well, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, it's just those things like, those structure, fishing these ledges. Sometimes it's like, obviously one of the major tools is having that fish finder. Just looking at the depth so that you're ma- fishing parallel to that. I know I've talked about it a lot. A lot of people when they fish ledges or they're fishing drop offs, they don't work it effectively. Actually, my one of my fishing
Yeah.
buddies, Jay, when we've been fishing, it's like there are people who go out over to an area and they know fish are there, just don't fish it right. And what they'll do is that they'll just cast straight at the bank and bring it out. But you're only working like that ledge like part at a time. Whereas if you have a fish finder and understand like this is where, and I shouldn't call them fish finders because I don't really use them to find. I don't really look for fish on there. I'm looking for the drop off, so it's more depth finder for me. you find that drop, and basically you can position your kayak and just sit on that drop and cast parallel to it.
Right.
That way, the whole time you're working that drop.
Oh, that's a good idea. I never.
Yeah,
Yeah, usually I'm not even doing that. I'm just working the drop off like in that. You know what I mean? Like kind of like
yeah,
this, where
yeah,
you're
yeah.
working the
But
cowboy. That's pretty
you can
cool.
just position yourself on
Right.
that drop. Okay, it's going from 2 to 4, and
Right.
then you can kind of sit yourself there and just cast down because generally,
Like at the
you
4 foot one, right? Just
yeah,
bring it down
yeah,
to four
just
foot.
yeah,
Right. That's a pretty
exactly.
good idea. Yeah.
Or you can find that, oh, I'm actually getting the bites deeper, so let me move over and start working that 5 to 7 foot range,
Yeah.
where that slope is, um,
Nice.
and it helps you become more effective, and helps you visualize. I think most people are visual people, anyways. Um, when you're covering water, just having an idea like, hey, I just got that bite, and it was around this point on an island that it drops to about 6 foot, and then a few hundred yards down the way, oh look, there's an island. I'm pretty sure that island's probably going to have a little point right there too,
Hmm.
and it's gonna maybe there's a 6 foot hole right there. There's probably going to be fish right there, and it's just
That, that yeah, that
recreating that.
when you say that, I got a flashback of was the East Lagoon is what it's called, where
Yeah.
they have those points that come back down, out and then they just drop real deep.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, man, and the lagoon's a pretty good, promising spot too to learn how to kayak fish because it's protected by the wind for you guys that want to learn how to kayak fish, and there's decent fish in there. But yeah, that reminded me when you said that. I was like, oh, East Lagoon. I thought of that, like the points, and it just drops off deep like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I also like. I don't know about you, but I use half-ounce jig heads, and I know a lot of people don't use big jig heads. Um, and do you use half-ounce jig heads or quarter ounce, or do you go heavier in winter time with the lead? You don't? Okay, all
No,
right. So
I'm
I think I'm one
throwing.
of the few people that actually do that. But my structure is like 20 feet, somewhere around there, with 20 to 15 feet is when I'm fishing those kind of deep water structure or deep water drop offs, so to speak. So
Yeah,
maybe different application.
I'm throwing quarter ounce, for me, and they work for the areas that I fish. I do understand the application of having half ounce jig heads, and one of the things, actually, one of my resolutions that I'm going to, my one of my New Year resolutions this year. I know when I first actually started the show, one of the things I publicly said is that you know, I don't think that the jig head size matters. You just need to go out and find feeding fish, which is still true. I still find that true. Um, but it's having the correct presentation. It has made a difference. Like last, actually, in 2022, I started fishing 16,000 jig heads during the spring, um, and I did really well, like fishing these currents, and a lot of the trout were feeding on smaller baits and all this stuff. So um, I know back in the day when I first started getting to fishing, I fished a lot 3/8 ounce, especially over in what was that over by the shipping port over in um,
The Laporte kind of area,
Laporte,
maybe.
correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
or a little bit past Laporte or Laporte.
it's Laporte.
Okay.
Fishing the terminals over there.
Oh, I'm not potlicking you. I just when you said that,
No, no,
I thought
no.
of deep water kind of
Everybody,
figure.
you're gonna find Merrill there tomorrow. He's just gonna be out there like, all right,
Potlick.
this is the shipping terminal that Jonathan was talking about, and
Yeah.
3/8 ounce jig head. Um, but
What color
yeah,
lure were
I
you throwing? All right.
yeah,
What color lure?
it was the Truce Goose saltwater assassin. There you go,
Truce goose. What is
Truce Goose.
that? What
They
is
don't make it
that?
anymore.
Oh.
I think the closest one that they have is the Lime Truce Ghost that they have now.
Oh,
But
nice.
yeah.
There was a question Perry asked. How effective is fishing corkies from a kayak? Dude, I throw corkies year round, Perry. Like I love those things. Um, I don't know. I didn't know why it's addicting. I guess I've gotten the pattern of working it so many different ways. They got floaters now, So what I used to do is like pick it up real high and kind of skip it on the water, like this one, like slowly suspending bait. And then they have different weights now on these corkies. They've modified them so much. I think some people go as far as bending the tail
Yep.
so it can like fall quicker, or I don't know. I don't do any of that, but it's been effective. I've seen people do it, and it's really effective.
We have a whole
Um,
episode talking about corkies.
oh, we do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we spent like we talked about subsurface twitch baits,
Oh,
and
okay.
we had a whole segment that we talked about corkies. But yeah, very effective whether you're kayak fishing or not. I do say that the big thing is that we don't drift fish with it. It's just so difficult to drift fish with it. Um,
Well, he's got a Hobie now, so right. So you would find out what the current's doing in that area, and try to find yourself in a position where you're in your strike zone longer, and you can get that effective cast that you're looking for. Um, Give an example. You're at San Luis Pass, and it's incoming tide. You'd face your nose towards the incoming tide, and you'd pedal up slowly. And as you cast forward, you let your bait come this way. But make sure you're casting it at a distance where when it's coming forward, you're at your maybe your 3 o'clock. If it gets past 3 o'clock, you're too far behind you now. But try to find out what your strike zone is, where you want to. If you're just blind casting everywhere, then you can just drift everywhere. But try to stay in position longer. I think wade fishing probably be a lot more effective.
yeah,
Posting up the yak, posting it down. That way you can stand in one position. But me, I don't get out of my kayak. I like staying in my kayak, and I drift fish out of it all the time. Uh, it's just
yeah,
might be a little bit more work and learning how to work your rudder and positioning yourself.
yeah. For if you're working the corky, like one of the things, especially with a kayak, and now that you could move and scoot around, um, a cork is not going to be the best way to like search for fish because of the way you work it. You have it's much slower than say just reeling in a jig, a paddle tail. So once I figure out where the fish are, and generally also at the same time, you know, I can find an area where I want to wade and I can hop out and then I can work that area real well with that corky. Um, and if you're in too deep water and there's current moving around, and even if you get positioned yourself right, the it sometimes it just gets really difficult to work that corky. So either stake out, hop out and wade, or just be in a constant paying attention to your movements. That way that you can, get it out to where you need to get out to, and so that you can constantly get that right action. Um, yeah, working a corky in a kayak is definitely fun. Just it could be a little bit of a challenge. So
Yeah, because man, and I can't tell you how many times where like I'm adjusting my kayak and then they hit that corky and I'm like, oh man, like, and you're trying to adjust your rudder to the current and stuff.
yeah,
That's happened more often than I'd like. But yeah, wade fishing would probably be a better approach on that with the corky,
yep.
unless you're like me, don't want to get out of the kayak.
Hey, getting out of the kayak is one of the I haven't done it this year yet. Mainly because all the spots that I wanted to do it at, they're just been dead, just dead.
Mm,
But it's it's a really good way to learn an area because you have to slow yourself down. You can't really go anywhere, and it's it's there is something to be said about putting your boots onto the ground and like feeling around, like, oh, I'm on sand or I'm on shell and mud, and here's a drop off, oh,
hmm.
if I take another step, I'm dropping like 6 foot over my head,
Right, right.
something to be said
Yeah,
about that.
I seen that happen out there in Sea Isle. We're out there wade fishing, wintertime fishing, and there's a gut. There's a deep gut that runs in front of the pier in Sea Isle. So we're going out there and we're wade fishing. Me and a group of guys, and a guy steps out too far. He went under, and I mean he came back up, but it was one of those things like, yeah, man, got to watch your step there.
Yeah, there's a little gut right there. Got to be careful.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But he was all right. He just it being cold, and he went straight back, and that was it for him.
Yeah. That's why you need to
Me
bring
and I'm
extra clothes.
short, right? So maybe that's why I don't like wade fishing, because I'm too damn short. The water will be coming up in my my waders and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe wading fishing is not my thing.
We have a question from Austin. What are your favorite wintertime colors? Like
Yeah.
whatever I throw the rest of the year is what I throw during the winter too. It's really like for me,
Don't
it's
change it
just
up.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't really change it up. It's the like the Truce Goose kind of color, lime Truce Ghost. Especially for those straight tails, the saltwater assassins. The plum chartreuse, I'm always throwing all the time, and especially in over in West Bay and pink. Those are really my three colors. I used to throw a lot of Morning Glory. I kind of gotten away from it, but it actually here like from Knock and Tail lures. This right here, it's just lime truce. It's just lime, chartreuse and white. You know,
Oh, that's a
it,
good bait, man.
yeah, and that's kind of like that's the color profile for my chartreuse, and it just works. So
Mm. Yeah, I actually I like pink, the pink fat boy with the glitter.
mhm.
That one. I like the mullet color, which it the black and silver and red in the neck. That one. I like the purple one. I don't know what that color is called.
Like the plum chartreuse.
Yeah, yeah, that one.
Yeah,
Yeah. They meant so. I think DOA calls it like a June bug color.
yeah. Everybody
So
calls it a little different.
yeah, yeah. And
And
then
I would,
good.
yeah, I was gonna say even too, like even between different companies, like plum chartreuse for like knock and tail lures looks nothing like plum chartreuse for saltwater assassin
Mm.
because
No, no, it doesn't.
the plum chartreuse for saltwater assassin is literally red and blue and with the tail. The chartreuse, and I'm doing air quotes. Chartreuse is a green tail, uh, and that one of
Is
the
that still
guys.
isn't that still truce? Like really, or
Yeah,
do
yeah,
you
yeah. I mean, I guess, but it's like when I'm thinking chartreuse, I'm thinking like like
that color? Okay,
like
all right. You're not
like
thinking the green chartreuse color.
yeah.
Okay,
I'm thinking of like a nuclear waste kind of yellow.
yeah.
Not like this.
Something like the Ninja Turtles drink or something.
Yeah,
Not that, right?
yeah. No, not that. Not that.
Okay, all right. No, and then so I do like my buddy Todd went with me one time, and he was hooking up a lot on this like the chartreuse color. He had a chartreuse and different color in the lure, but it was mainly chartreuse, and he was really effective with that one with the fat boy. And I wasn't as effective as he was, and we're kind of fishing generally the same area, so. I actually grabbed one of those for my arsenal. Size matters. Big girls want to eat. Oh, yeah. I think somebody asked, does size matter when you're throwing lures? I like to throw bigger baits. Not saying that a smaller fish won't hit it, but I think the probability of a bigger fish hitting a bigger bait increases, in my opinion. What do you think, Jonathan?
Yeah, and we've gone over this a lot too. It's just having that bigger bait, is especially when it is cold. Like whenever you get to those warming trends, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But whenever you like, if you, whenever it's like 40-degree air temperature outside, it's been 40-degree air temps the whole time. When the water, and that means the water temperature is like 50s, 60s, like cold.
Hmm.
Um, Whenever it's like that, and the fish are lethargic, you really want to try to get that bigger profile, because if you want to get them to eat, they're going to expend as little energy as possible for the biggest reward, which is going to be a big mullet for them. So that bigger profile is definitely going to help. But whenever you have that warming trend after these cold fronts, yeah, it may help at the same time, but you can get away with some of the smaller profile because they're at that point they're feeding at that point. They're
Mm.
just stocking up to get ready for that next cold front. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was going to ask you that question, but you answered it.
oh
Yeah, yeah. Like I was gonna ask, well, why would you think a fish would eat a bigger bait? But
yeah,
yeah, it's good. So another question is explain presentation um, in the wintertime versus the summertime, right? So is there a different presentation you would have with a bait in those two different areas
I've actually
scenarios.
found during the winter, finesse is really, really important. And they go back. So these knock and tail lures are really, really good, and I'm a big believer of them. And I will use them a lot to, like, especially when I know the fish are in those areas. And I will just work water columns and search for fish that way. At the same time, tied on my other rod is going to be a straight tail all the time. And the reason being is I whenever their fish are like lethargic and they're not actively fish chasing bait, I'm sometimes like the rattle or the paddle tail motion, it just for some reason is a turn off for them. They're not going to go after it. More often than not, I found with a straight tail, which is just a dart. It's a dart action. That's all it is. It's a dart, dart, die, dart, dart, die. Um, that is enough for them to kind of trigger a response. Uh, One of the trips that I had, I was out waiting and actually over in Sea Isle. It was a cold day. I was actually trying to my buddy. He was in a boat, and he had parked all the way towards like the mouth of the canals to the back over there. Um, and I was going to actually walk in and get to the boat, and after that we are going to go out. He ended up having engine trouble, and I didn't make my way out that way because I could hear him having engine trouble. I'm like, I'm going to leave him alone, let them deal with that. I'm going to just fish over here.
Hmm.
Um, and I was throwing a pink sand eel. I'm so well. Actually, let me start over. I was throwing a
Flamingo.
not a flamingo. I was throwing a paddle tail. The Oh my god, hackberry hustler, my go
Okay.
to back in the day, and like all the signs pointed to me. There should be fish over here. Like every so often, you could see a swirl. There's current moving around this point. There's some deep water in front of me, and
Did you
like
see bait?
the swirls I saw from mullet.
Mm.
They were just you can kind of see them, just traveling through, and like there should be fish here. And I was throwing this paddle tail, this hackberry hustler, wasn't getting anything. Um, Threw a corky, nothing. And I put on this pink, hot pink Norton sand eel. First cast, I caught like a 24-inch trout, and it was just cast out there and just bounce it slowly on the bottom, just twitch, twitch, bounce, twitch,
Oh,
twitch.
slow and low.
It's just slow and low, and it was literally like twitch, twitch, and then whenever you twitched it again, you didn't even feel the bite. It was just like you twitched it, and it was like it just got mushy, and you just set the hook. Um, and I ended up catching, back then at that point it was still 10, and I ended up catching like 20 trout
Oh,
just by
nice.
switching it up. Um, and I completely believe it had something to do with just it just wasn't moving. It was slow, number one, and it didn't have all that flash and thing to it. It was just the straight tail, and it just dart, dart, and then they would just pick it up at that point. So yeah,
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess switching up your bait would, you so that was a case where you threw a smaller bait instead of a bigger bait during the
yeah,
winter time,
yep,
right?
yep,
So I guess we didn't really answer your question. I mean, I guess
I,
switch it up until you get a bite.
yeah,
But I mean,
I
you could like some of these fishermen, they have a sense, right? Like you did. They have a sense that, hey, man, there's fish here. Like there's got to be active fish here, and you sensed it, right? You're kind of like, man, I know there's fish here. Let me just change it up a little bit, and see what happens. And I guess you were successful during that time.
yeah.
Usually, man, me, I'm lazy though. Like if I got a fat boy on, I'm just gonna work that sucker. Just keep working
Well,
and
I mean,
working.
I was lazy too. Part of the reason why I figured there are fish there, at the same time, also, I didn't want to walk any further. So there better be fish here. But it's just all the signs that just pointed to it. And I just felt like it was a good area. I've caught fish there before. So I figured that was going to be the case. Um, but, just, I think part of it too, and there is something to be said about like having the kitchen sink with you, but at the same time, like if you have to throw like I don't want to be out there like I need to find the perfect bait and start tying on like 8 different baits because that
Right.
doesn't sound fun to me. You know?
No, 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 it doesn't. So
So
I guess we didn't help this guy out at all. So
no,
it's like it's like keep throwing the kitchen sink at him until you get lucky.
yeah, yeah,
So we had
it,
that we I had that success in Corpus too, right? Like
mhm.
we're throwing fat boys, got a couple good fish, and then they just weren't hitting. Switched to a straight tail, or it had a small paddle. It's actually a knocking tail lure I was throwing. Um, and I ran out of the pink. It was a pink one, the pink one
Yeah,
that looked like the yeah, it was a pink one I was throwing, and I was throwing that one out there, and I just threw that for the rest of the day, and I was catching more fish. So I just kind of put the fat boy away and put that one on. But that was two baits that I transitioned to. So yeah, that
yeah,
was a transition for me. But I didn't go heavier because I think we are fishing for that application. I didn't need to go half ounce jig head. I think I went with it was a little windy that day, so I think I went with a quarter ounce or eighth ounce. I think it was quarter ounce. I went with quarter ounce, and I threw the quarter ounce. But like for deep waters, I'm using half ounce, which I mean deep is like 12 plus.
yeah. Like I said, for me, I'm sticking with a quarter. Um, I should get to heavier because I've done it before, but for the most part, the quarter has done well. Um, and yeah, we have Jay in the chat, and Jay has reaffirmed my belief that I need to start varying up my jig heads because we were out there actually probably a month ago, and he was just tearing up the trout on a 16th out jig head, and it was the funniest thing because literally you'd be bringing it in, working in a little. He was using a little John, and another straight tail. You were bringing it in, and the fish would hit and just like start going towards you, and you would have to catch up. And by the time you caught up, the fish was already like behind your kayak. So
That's like shallower water, so right, like
yeah, yeah,
maybe
we were in like 2.5 foot, 3 foot of
yeah.
water.
See, I
So
would that would I would use a 16 ounce or
yeah,
like real light because it's not that much of a water column. You can't do so much, you know.
yeah,
And being in the middle of that column be a lot more successful.
yeah.
But
We have another question here that says from Marco. Have y'all seen the rattlesnaker tool? Do you know what that is? I'm not
no, I
familiar with
haven't.
it.
No, I haven't.
Marco, if you could send us a picture of it, I kind of want to see what a rattlesnaker tool is now. But um, um, I guess another thing that
I think we missed a couple questions.
did we? Mm.
Yeah, I think so. But maybe you want to scroll and see if we can get some down there.
Yeah, we. Oh,
Uh,
here's one. It's a good one actually from Austin. How effective are popping corks in the winter?
oh wow, man, use them all the time,
Yeah.
24/7. No, I'm just kidding. No,
I
man.
I was gonna say I actually use it for the first time, not for the first time. I've used them plenty of times before, but I've had a really good opportunity to use them this year in January. Um, it was we had a cold front going through, and I had literally just like I was getting ready for this cold front, and I went into a drain and just like parked my kayak um, at the like at the inside of that drain and turned my kayak around. And when that water started flushing out with that front, I just
Hmm.
started dropping my popping cork and letting it drift back through that drain. Oh my gosh, it was so many redfish that day. So many redfish. And it was the tough thing too was that I was using my spinning reels are 1,000 size reels, 10-pound braid.
Oh
Um,
wow, so that was fun.
yeah, and it was like the thing was that all these redfish, they're just like going out to eat, like just leaving leaving the marsh and just going out there. So they would take the cork under, I'd set the hook, and they would just try to go out with the current. So everything felt like it was like 30 pounds. And I was just sitting there like just trying to bring them back in through
22 inches, right? Like, oh,
yeah,
that was a bull
yeah.
red. It's 22
Oh,
inches.
oh yeah, no. The first fish I caught was like a 18-inch redfish, 18-inch rat red, and I thought it was a freaking like a bull red, you know.
You're
So
already pulling your stringer out as you have them on the line with your rod up
exactly.
in the air, getting the stringer ready and
Oh
net
yeah,
all ready. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Another
back
cool thing
to back.
too, I had one. I had the cork go down, and I started trying to reel in and feel the weight on it, and it freaking this ended up being like a 27-inch redfish ran past the kayak. Like
Oh
the cork just
man.
came up past the kayak and started going, kept going past me, and I just brought it up. And when I set the hook, it was like a freaking bass came out and just started shaking right there.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and but yeah, using a popping cork during the winter, um, especially at these drains, I've been finding that it's really, really effective. Um,
Wow, man,
yeah,
that's crazy. I don't even think I use a popping cork in the winter, but I heard people being successful with them. I just never. I, I don't use popping corks in the wintertime. Maybe because I'm just mainly focusing on big trout and fat
yeah,
boys. Maybe
yeah,
that's why.
yeah. And the only reason why I was doing this is because again, it had rained the previous day, so the water's kind of fresh. The wasn't doing anything. The trout bite wasn't happening. And I just knew the redfish were in the back over here, so that's just what I was going to do. We have Drew Turner, who also he's a glad he's joined us on our chat, but he's the host of the Paddler's Playbook. Go ahead and give them a listen if you're looking for other kayaking fishing podcasts. He's asked what the best earmuff for winter fishing is.
Oh man,
I
I
think
don't.
you're the only one that I've ever seen wear earmuffs during the winter while
Who
out there
me?
fishing. Yeah. You have this like big floppy earmuffs that you have out there.
Man, I use all kinds of them, Drew. The hats with the earmuffs on them, I
Yeah.
like those. I think Sims got a good one too. That's like it's a hat and it's ear like it goes around your ears. So it's like a hat and then it comes down just like this. These earphones, it comes down right there and goes around your ears.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I wear a lot of. I wouldn't say earmuffs, but like beanies with the ear protection on them. Yeah, I like those. Man, I got some funny ones. Now that I think about it, I look like an air pilot on some of them. They're all like dangling everywhere.
Just need a pair of goggles, like old style goggles, and you'll be set.
Yeah, that's what I need. Or the ones you see the one that I had with the braids on them. Those were funny too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a funny one. The black one with the braids on it. I don't know what I was wearing. I think at that point I was just like, man, just throw enough clothes on so I don't freeze my balls off. I was
I got kind of have to ask now. Are you picking your own outfits here, or what's going on with those?
like, unfortunately, yes, I am. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question, Drew. Also, Ram Garcia, he joined us too with Speed Spool. I might be saying it wrong. What's the podcast that Ram has?
It's like Spooled Life
Spool
Live.
Life? I'm all Speed Spool. Man, that's like a bearing that you use for bait casters and reels. So, sorry, forgive us, man. I think it's Spooled Life, right?
Yeah, something
Okay.
like that.
Thanks for
I
joining us,
also
Ram.
apologize because I don't remember on top of my head.
He has a
Um,
really good show, though, man.
yeah, he does.
He's got a great voice, and he's got a lot of cool guests. Which I think we got a couple cool guests lined up,
Yeah,
man.
we
We'll
have
keep
a
you
we
on
have a
tune.
couple cool guests lined up. Don't want to announce it just yet, but be on the lookout.
There's a lot of
Because
exciting things. There's this one in particular I'm really excited about,
yeah,
but I'll keep my mouth shut. But I'm pretty excited about it.
yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, it's been like yeah, it's Spooled Life Live. There you go.
Thank you, Drew. For,
Thank you, Drew. Yeah, it's been kind of a we've gone. We can talk about this all day, and I just don't want to keep everybody here for over an hour.
oh,
Um,
feel
but
like we're just getting started again.
we're just getting started again.
Yeah, we're just getting started, but time's out.
Yeah, but yeah, I just want to thank everybody for joining us. And if you do want to join us live, we're live every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can find us at facebook.com/ One Last Cast podcast. Also on YouTube, you can find us there. And just join us live and ask questions. Like we answered a bunch of our listener questions live while we're just talking about this. Y'all guys have some great information and great insight. We'd love to hear it from y'all. And if you have questions or that you don't want answered live, just email us, one last cast podcast at gmail.com. I guess before we hop off, is there anything else you wanted to kind of touch up on, Meryl?
Yes. Yeah, just shout out to Landers Fishing. Yeah, just give them guys a shout out. I think FTU is going to try to get some demos for some of you guys to test out these kayaks before you purchase them. Oh yeah, shoot! I almost forgot a big one, man.
What?
Jesus, Martin's gonna kill me. So DSKA is gonna start doing giveaways again. So make sure you get your fish entries. So I'm gonna go over a little bit on how that works, right? So you got to catch a legal game fish, right, and put it on the board, and then say the code, whatever it's like winner, like it'd be DSKA winner, or he'll give you a code. You have to have the code. Either you could do a video and then show the fish on a measuring board and then release it. And usually they're good gifts. They're like reels, fish finders, glasses, rods. I mean, they're not just like, some bootleg like pack of lures. You know what I mean? It's a decent gift, right? So, but the idea is to get you guys more fishing and on the water more. You had people that were always on the water that always participated because they're always on the water, like Julian Lerma, Juan Perez. Like those guys were always on the water and they were always winning. But it's like because it was like they're entering all the time. But so basically, DSKA is gonna give you a code. You put that code in a picture and your fish on the game or on the board with the measurement showing it's illegal. Or you can do a video and you say, hey, DSKA winner, or DSKA, February, or whatever the code is, and he'll usually gives it away out on the DSKA page. So yeah, we're gonna try to gear up on a lot of stuff, Phil. We're gonna get back up and rolling. Life got the best of most of us admins, and we got real busy. So we're gonna come back and hit it hard and get back in the mix and become more of the active page we used to be. So stay tuned and stay active.
Awesome. Um, and actually, one more thing I wanted to kind of just briefly touch up on is like after you came out back from your Florida trip, you and I talked to the Pack group. We got
Oh
invited to
yeah, we
talk to
did.
Pack, um, and
Yeah,
yeah, I that was a great experience just to go to a kayaking kind of club, and they're nonprofit and they host trips and stuff like that. You do have to there's membership fees and stuff like that, but they're an awesome group to be a part of, and it was a pleasure to talk to them. I think the opportunities like that are great. So
yeah,
if you guys have an opportunity for if you want us to come speak with y'all about kayak fishing, we talked about night fishing during that our presentation, and that was a lot of fun. Um, we got some good info from it, hopefully, and I know that they got some good info from us. So if you have a group that you want us to talk to or whatever, we'll be more than happy to just send us a message through our Facebook page, or you can send it through email as well, the one less cast podcast at gmail.com. But yeah, I
Yeah, I totally. Yeah, that was a good one. That seminar, that was fun, and I think we maybe sent an eighth of the information we wanted to say. You ever do those seminars? Like, man, I forgot this. Man, I forgot that. That was
yeah.
on my way home. I was like, gosh, we forgot so much stuff. But and it was fun. Those I think it was a low entry fee, like membership fee, like something real ridiculously low. Like I think it was like $25 or something like that. But then they do a lot of outings, right? So they go on trips together. So if you're one of those guys that likes to go on a lot of trips, definitely hit up Pack, see what's up. I know my buddy, he's in the group. Todd Schaefer, Brad Finale, I think. Well, I can't say his last name, but he's a really good tournament fisherman. He usually used to kick our butts back in the day. Um, but yeah, those guys right there, reach out to those guys, get involved. If you like to do trips, camping trips, and they travel along the world. So that's something to look into if you're that kind of kayak fisherman.
Awesome. Well, it's been good talking to you, Meryl. And I'm glad hopefully everybody who was tuning in would learned a little bit about winter fishing from our perspective. Um, yeah, just stay on the lookout for some of our future episodes. Again, facebook.com/one last cast podcast. And just be on the lookout. Thanks, you guys. Have a good one.
Take care, guys.